Yesterday, an Ethiopian airline Boeing 737 MAX 8 crashed just 6 minutes after takeoff with no survivors. All 149 passengers and 8 crews were perished. The airplane was just 4 months old. This is not the first crash involving Boeing 737 MAX 8. Just 4 months ago, Indonesian Lion Air Boeing 737 MAX 8 crashed minutes after takeoff from Jakarta into Java Sea. All 189 passengers and crew perished. So 2 back-to-back fatal crashes that killed almost 350 people in just 4 months has raised serious alarm on the safety of the new Boeing 737 MAX family. Let's quickly recap on what happened yesterday on the Ethiopian 737 MAX flight. The 737 MAX 8 was operating as Ethiopian Airline 302 from Addis Ababa to Nairobi. Registration of the plane is ETAVJ. It vanished from radio contact with ATC at around 8,600 feet just 6 minutes after departure. Flight radar 24 determined vertical speed was unstable during takeoff. Ethiopian Airlines stated the plane has 1,200 hours and was perfectly maintained.
Just talk now with a friend of mine who's actually flying 777 in Ethiopian. He was on the holding point just behind them. Just before they took off. Apparently the only thing he told me is that they took off normally, and whilst they were on the climb, they declared an emergency that they had unreliable airspeed and they couldn't control the aircraft. That's the only thing he told me for sure, because he was there and he was hearing the frequency when they switch off frequency. From there on, he doesn't know what happened. But it's definitely a problem that the crew told the tower that they had wrong airspeed indications and they couldn't control the aircraft. I don't know what the is going on with that aircraft, man. Software, I don't know. I cannot imagine how experienced pilots, even if it's airspeed unreliable, can lose control of the aircraft if there's no any problem with any software, that is something that the pilot doesn't see. But it's really sad, man, really sad.
From what we have gathered so far, it seems like the sensors have been disagreeing with each other, causing unreliable airspeed, which triggers and activated the MCAS system to lower the nose of the airplane for a dive. We have to wait until a thorough investigation to conclude that. But what is MCAS?
MCAS is a new system installed on the Boeing 737 MAX aircrafts because of the bigger and lower engine on the airplane. When the pilot inputs more power on the engine, it creates a higher nose-up attitude. What MCAS does is it trims the aircraft to the nose-down position to prevent stalling condition. This system is completely independent of pilot input, and there is no mention of this system in any of the pilot manuals. On the 737, we have electric trim motors, and we also have a manual trim wheel to trim the aircraft. It is still too early to say what was the cause of the crash, but one of the possibility can be MCAS was trying to trim the aircraft down, but pilots did not deactivate the cutout switches for the electric motors, which they were supposed to do. Again, it is still too early to say.
4 months ago, on October 29, 2018, Indonesian Lion Air flight JT610 took off from Jakarta. Within 13 minutes, it reported difficulty and plunged into Java Sea.
Investigators say the pilots of the doomed flight struggled to keep the plane in the air, pulling the nose up as the plane's computers pushed it into a fatal dive.
The computer introduced a nose-down command, and the pilots fought it. They're trying to maintain altitude. The computer continues, and the computer at this point has a more powerful flight control, and eventually the pilots lose the battle.
Investigators believe one of the plane's sensors, like this one, was sending bad data, suggesting the plane was flying too slowly. The computers pushed the nose forward to pick up speed and avoid a stall. Investigators say that same sensor was replaced just the day before after airspeed indicators malfunctioned on previous flights.
Of course, without proper and thorough investigation, it is pure speculation to think about the 2 fatal crashes caused by the same reason. However, from the flight data available, we can see correlations. Both aircraft were climbing and then rapidly descending with unstable vertical speed. With so many factors coming into play when an accident happened, such as human error, not following the procedure, mechanical error, the sensor error, aircraft design error, we can't rule anything out at this stage. It is important to stress that until an investigation is complete, there's no immediate subject to blame. Following the two crash on the 737 MAX, many airlines in the world has been taking precautions. The FAA on 11 March said they have not received enough evidence to ground the Boeing 737 MAX fleet in the US. The Civil Aviation Authority in China has ordered all airlines in China operating the 737 MAX to ground the plane immediately. According to Bloomberg's estimate, the 737 accounts for nearly 1/3 of Boeing's revenue and profits that generate nearly $30 billion annually when the production raised to 57 aircraft per month. The 737 MAX is Boeing's fastest selling plane. As of January 31st, 2019, 737 MAX have accumulated more than 5,100 orders, with more than 350 in service, with 38 operators worldwide. Last July, when I was in Seattle, I have been given a tour in the Boeing 737 MAX factory in Renton.
So our fuselages come in from Wichita, Kansas by rail. You may have seen them as you guys drove in. Once they arrive, they're basically just an empty green shell. We wash that coating off when we start the paint process. But so fuselage arrives, we'll pull it up here, and in the overnight hours, you'll see the yellow cranes at the top here. The cranes will move up, they'll pick up the fuselages, and the first 3 days they spend in that structure, we call it systems installation. It's basically where the airplane gets its guts. A lot of the electrical, venting, paneling goes on in those initial phases. And then on the fourth day, the crane comes back, drops the airplane into this position in the corner, which is called wing-to-body join. And that's where it finally starts to look like an airplane. The tail gets put on, the wings get put on, the landing gear gets attached in that position. Once all that happens, the airplane comes up, takes a turn, and starts moving down the line. And so the airplane that's closest to the door down there is the one that's ready, the furthest along, and it'll go out. Once it gets its engines, it goes out to the paint hangar.
What's the difference between the current NG, the new generation 7.3, and the MAX 7.3?
Sure. So Sam, the MAX has a few unique differences that sets it apart from the NG. The most important is the larger new CFM LEAP 1B engine at 69-inch fan diameter. That new engine is a lot more efficient and quieter. Some other features you'll notice are the advanced technology winglet with the up and downward shape.
Yep.
And then the other is the APU has a redesigned tail cone. We've eliminated the vortex generators on the aft tail. And if you look really closely, you might see that 20 centimeter rise on the nose wheel. And then inside, all Maxes have Boeing Sky interior, which a lot of customers prefer over a non-Sky interior.
I have also been given a 737 MAX cockpit tour during the Farnborough Air Show. The cockpits draw similarity to the 787 with large information display screens.
What you're looking at here, one of the really cool things about the airplane is 787 primary flight displays. You can see really high resolution displays. What we're doing is providing great information to the flight deck, to the flight crews, and also provisioning the airplane for this next generation of air traffic management and flight operations functionality.
Now, as an AV geek, one thing I noticed, the angle of attack on climbing on the 737 MAX is definitely shallower than the other plane. On the other hand, the CFM LEAP 1B engine is one of the quietest engines I experienced on takeoff. I have flown on several 737 MAX model and my experience was very pleasant on them. I have flown the 737 MAX 8 on American Airlines, Oman Air, and Fly Dubai. And also I've flown the Copa Air 737 MAX 9. They have a lay flat seats as well. Personally, I enjoy flying the MAX aircraft because of quieter in the cabin, and also airline typically invest in better seats on the new aircraft. So is the Boeing 737 MAX a safe airplane to fly? I think this is rather a question mark than a conclusion right now. We are all waiting to hear more from the crash investigation. there are many questions need to be answered. This is news just in. Today, on March 12, Boeing has confirmed they will deploy a flight control software update on the 737 MAX. These updates include the update to the MCAS flight control law, the operation manual, crew training, and the flight display. So Boeing indicated that the enhanced flight control law incorporate the AOA, which is the angle of attack inputs, and that also limits the stabilizer trims during an error reading of the angle of attack. Here I am sending my deep condolences to all the family and friends of the victim who perished in those two tragic crashes. Boeing has postponed the 777X launch day. It was originally scheduled to be tomorrow, and I was supposed to be in Seattle. I think this is a positive move by Boeing. Rather than celebrating another milestone, let's get focused to get to the bottom of the cause of the accident to make the sky more safe. Thank you for watching.